First of all, like, let's. There are two things to talk about here, right? And they both have to do with the same subject of representation of brown people in Hollywood, right? So if you, Sonia, are like willing to, play some stupid jihadi part on network TV and then do that over and over and over because they keep writing those parts, you'll be fine. You'll be a working actress on TV, right? But if you're like, no, I won't perpetuate these stereotypes of brown people, then you are equally as fucked as like there's not a whole lot of work. It's like, like if you want to play no Sharma, no terrorist, no whatever, then it comes down to like a handful of parts.
But what if these actors really say tough. That, first of all, beggars can't be choosers, and then on top, being an actor,
that's why I said
you cannot be judgmental. Even if you get a role for a prostitute, you should do it. Even if you get a role for a terrorist, you should do it. What about that? How are you gonna? What's your take on that?
My take on that is cool. Live your life the way you want to live your life. Don't tell me how to live my life, right? Because to me, what you're doing is you're a part of that system, right? There's a system in place, right? Whether it's racism or stereotypes, whatever you want to call it. I call it institutional racism, right? If you're going to keep showing brown people in parts that perpetuate that same stereotype, then guess what? As a part of institutional racism, the Americans that watch that show, it keeps getting drilled into their head, oh, brown people are terrorists, right? Then you are helping that stereotype, that institutional racism, by playing those parts, by saying, yes, brown people are terrorists, right? Where really the terrorism in America has been school shooters. Like, in the last 10 years, school shooters, and they're all white kids. Like, that's a terrorism we've faced, So that's what I would say to anyone that says, oh, don't judge the writing, don't judge a part. Like, okay, you do that, bro. Don't tell me. Now, if I judge a piece of writing because I think it's shitty writing, then yeah, sure, don't judge that part. Like if someone asks me to play Jamadar, right? Like, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be seen as Jamadar, right? Like, that's judgy of me. But if I'm standing up against institutional racism in America, no one should tell me, otherwise. And also think about it this way for 1 second, right? If NBC has a show that they keep showing brown people as terrorists, once a week or once a month, right? If all of us say we won't play that part, what do you think NBC is going to do? They can't cast a white person as a brown person, right? Guess what? They will have to change that writing. They won't have anyone to play. That writing changes, and brown people become a more interesting, or like, yeah, if we all unite and stand up, it'll happen.
Is there actually any unity? What? No.
There's no unity.
You're going to break my heart.
Right? So the numbers keep, doubling, and the competition keeps going up. Unity, yeah. Oh, yeah. It doubles every year. Yeah. And that's good. What? It's healthy competition. Sure, there are new rules because, like, they're writing in interesting parts for the younger actors, right? I would say for the older actors, it's still pretty slim pickings, but for the younger actors, they're writing some interesting things. I see certain TV shows where they've written like an interesting. I would say for South Asian women, it's the best time. They're writing a lot of good, they're writing a lot of interesting parts for South Asian women. They're putting South Asian women into roles that were written for white women. They're doing that. For men, it's not great. It's not. I don't know why. I think it just goes back to the writing. And I think it's because South Asian women are considered very pretty. And they are, whatever. It's just not the case for the men. And I think, like, if people all the way up top, like Dev Patel and Riz Ahmed, right? Like, if they're publicly complaining, they're at the top. They get the best offers, right? They're complaining that they're not getting good parts as brown people, right? So imagine how... I mentioned Dev Patel and Riz Ahmed. Yeah. Those two have both publicly come out and like they've said, like the Hollywood's racist. They're not getting offered good parts, right? So if they're struggling for good parts, imagine what's happening all the way down in my level, right? Like, but to answer your question about unity, there are new groups for like South Asian women on Facebook. There are no such groups that I'm aware of for men, but I don't think we're at a point where we have unity where we're all like, let's carry each other forward. Like, I don't think that's a real, you know.
So I can't expect you to go like protesting, for all the Asian artists. But what is your fight? What is your step that you?
First of all, I think protesting is a waste of time when it comes to something that's not important. Entertainment is not like important. I go and protest at the Women's March, yeah, because I think a woman should be allowed to have an abortion. I think that's a woman's right, but for entertainment, protesting is a waste of time, right? The way to affect change, from what I've learned of being in Hollywood for 7 years now, or whatever, is you just have to write. You have to create the content. And that's why I became a writer.
That would be my next question. Like, which year, or what point did you think that, I want to start writing? Or
I realized this like 3-4 years ago. I'd always wanted to write when I first started hanging out with my like uncle's writer. I loved the process, but I just happened to fall like ass backwards into acting, and it just happened, right? So I never took writing seriously. But when I said no to that offer of being a terrorist on that show, that agent fired me. He said, "We're done." Because I said no to, like, I offended the big casting director, I offended the TV show, right? It made him look bad, right? It made him look bad, so he fired me. And I said, okay, I understand. He's fine. Like, he cannot, his job is to make money, right? Agent's job is simple. They have to make money for their agency. How do they make money? You have to go and work on big things. That's how they make money, right? If I get an opportunity to work on a big thing and make big money and I say no, then I'm useless to him, right? Yeah. So he realized that Aseem's not going to be able to make me money because he says no to all these things, and the things he wants to do don't exist. Or there's like 5 of them every year, and getting one of the 5 things is really hard, So I realized back then. And then 2 years ago, I started taking it more seriously. I started taking writing classes here without telling anyone. I just started doing it. I would do my auditions, and then I would take the writing class at night. And then last year, I took a writing class where something I wrote, the teacher, who's an existing TV showrunner, told me, he said, "Hey, you're onto something. This is good." And I was like, oh, okay. I need to take this seriously. And that's when I doubled down, I gave up my social life. I would work 9 to 5 in a casting office to learn more about casting. I worked in a big Hollywood casting office. Did my auditions with any free time, right? And then I would go at night and do the writing class and then write it up until 1 in the morning.
So you would work 9 to 5 in that casting office, and then give auditions in between, or of course.
Yeah, I would do my audition for self-tape, and I would send it that way. Instead of going to the audition, I would send a tape. And then after that was done, I would start my writing work.
Wow. And all that you did for how long was the writing?
About like a year or so. That brings us to I would say this past like summer, where a movie I did called Normal. Please watch it when it goes online. I'm the lead of a movie called Normal. I don't know, man. So we're trying to like sell it to Netflix or whatever, but it's taking time. We did our first film festival last May in Los Angeles. Then we did a film festival this summer in Singapore. We won Best Screenplay in Singapore. And then I went to India with the movie, to the Jagran Film Festival, which is huge. It was a JW Marriott. It was huge. I couldn't believe, like, I thought I would go with this like small indie film, right? And like nobody would come watch, like, I told my family, I'm like, oh, you should come watch. I don't think anyone will come. The Audi was like mostly full. It was huge. And people actually liked it. I was really surprised. And then we got a nomination for Best Foreign Feature at that festival. And then while I was in Bombay, I met the head of a studio. I pitched a writing idea for India. I wrote something about a guy in Bombay who's like 35. He's a loser, but he has mental health issues, and no one has acknowledged his mental health issues. And I pitched him that. No, I wrote Be Strong for the American market, which is also a comedy about mental health, but it's different. The one for India is called Sopti Ki Khopdi. There's a guy called Saurabh Sopti, and it's about what happens in his brain. Khopdi, yeah. So that a bunch of people liked, and there's an exec I pitched it to, and she immediately understood it, and she said, "I know what you're trying to do, and we should do this." But she came back to me when I came back to the US and said, hey, I want you to read a book, and then see if you like it. I read the book, did not like it. But she said, look, this book is a bestseller in India, and I think you're the person to take it to screen. I want you to do adaptation because you understand mental health. So, the movie is about a true event. I can't speak too much about it. It's about a true event, but
I mean, you're not doing the script that you were initially planning to do.
I am doing that. But the primary project right now is the movie, just because it needs to go fast. So yeah. That's really like how writing has happened. Like, taking, realizing that we have to create the content, for ourselves, right?
Wait for someone else to write for me. Yeah. Or,
Goes back to what I said earlier, that quote, be the change you want to see in the world. You have to be the change. You have to.
Oh God, you're being such an inspiration to me at the moment. You have no idea. I'm just feeling it. Thank you.
I'm rambling on too long. I thought this would be 30 minutes. It's gone way over. But you can cut the whole thing out.
No, I think I'm going to have an awesome 1 hour episode.
Just keep the parts where I give a quote of Mahatma Gandhi and then where I curse. Keep that.
And it's a hit. So yeah, you were saying that, yeah, this is you're at that point where you just realize that, if I want to do good roles or if I want to create good stories, at the end of the day, I need to take responsibilities and start writing and start also making good content.
Yeah. So the first step was realizing, the self-actualization, the self-awareness, whatever you want to call it, right? Was realizing. Then the second part was actually putting in the work for like 2 years, like not getting enough sleep, not socializing, not dating, like not watching that cool show on Netflix, just doing the work, doing that for a couple of years and then getting a lucky break, right? Luck, right? Like, it's so interesting.